welcome to the Rundown with Dr. Sierra. We discuss all things running. This week's episode is about different types of running. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with some of the terms that I'm about to throw out, but today I want to explain those in more detail. Like if you ever heard of a long run, a tempo run, an interval run, a fartlek run, any of those type of runs, then join us today for this week's episode so you can get some more information. So this first run is a base run. This is what you do every time you probably go out for a run and you're just kind of running at your comfortable speed and pace. And this is probably the run that you do the most throughout the week. It's like the bulk run that you do. Now you have different types, but this is the one that's like your standard. Like if you're going out for a run, the speed that's comfortable, the speed that you can run the furthest doing, this is your base run. So this one is important because you have to kind of figure out, hey, how long can I run at the same speed? How comfortable am I running at this speed? Am I able to do so consistently a couple of times out of the week? Whatever that speed is, that's what you kind of want to stick to for your base runs. So if you are uncertain of what that is and you're new to running, I would advise that you just go out, and it may take a couple of weeks or so to kind of figure out what your base run is, or even speed. You want to see how long you can run at a consistent pace for a couple of runs, and if that seems comfortable, whatever that may be, you can kind of gauge based on how long it's taking you to complete a mile, and whatever that time is, that's kind of your average, then I would say that that's probably your base run. So that's just a good way to kind of start off if you're new to running and you have no idea what I'm talking about. So first we have to establish what your base run is. So next is your long run. Now, if you are a pretty seasoned runner and you run a couple of times throughout the week, and let's say you work and so you're unable to get a lot of runs in during the week, and your schedule just doesn't permit it. So typically, I know I hear a lot of runners say like the weekends are when they put their long runs in. So let's say you run 3 miles during the week, and that's just, you can get that done relatively quickly, so it's not a big issue. But maybe on the weekend you like to run 5 to 7 miles, so I would consider that to be your long run. Now your long run is definitely meant to push you a little bit more than your normal. You should feel fatigued after you finish your long run. It should feel like you definitely put in some work. Your body's a little bit more tired than your normal run because you had to use a lot more endurance to push yourself. So if you feel like even after maybe you did the 5 to 7 miles that you just still feel like a normal run, like you just did 3 miles, then I would say that that is not the distance that you should be running for your long runs. You definitely should feel tired. You should definitely feel like, okay, well, I know that I ran a little longer than I normally have and I need some recovery because I don't feel like, I can just hop right back up tomorrow and run that same distance again. It should definitely push you. It should be stretching you as a runner on your longer run. So just make sure you kind of can gauge if it is pushing you to those limits or if it just still feels relatively normal, like the base run that you do throughout the week. The next type of run is an interval run, which can be done a lot of different ways. So if the way that I explain it is not the way that you have heard of it before, it's okay. There's different ways that you can do it. So the runner definitely starts off at a comfortable speed, and then throughout the run, there are different segments that you can break down and you can run at a faster speed. So during this time, you're kind of focusing on that speed work. Your main priority is just to kind of go at a reasonable speed that you can maintain, because you will do that for a short distance and then you can follow it up with a run, a slower jog, or you can just stop if if that's what you need to do because you're running so fast and it's kind of hard for you to recover and keep going. But you can definitely run that speed and then do it multiple times. I like to do it where you're running the faster speed and then you slow down, but you continue to run. Let's say we're just doing 3 miles. So throughout that time frame, we're doing speed maybe for, if we do it for time, if we do it for 30 seconds, or if we do it for distance, whatever it is, but you kind of continue that process throughout the run, but you never stop. That is the way that I like to do interval runs. I think either way that you do it, it definitely helps to improve your endurance when you are going for your maybe base run, or even if you're long runs where you're trying to work on your endurance, because you kind of challenge yourself during that interval run where you have to vary your speed. So it's very effective if you're looking to improve your distance or even your time, because you have already become accustomed to, shorter periods where you had to run at a faster speed. This, I think, definitely helps at the end of a race when you're trying to just kind of like push through and you want to finish. You can kind of mimic it as if you were running an interval, and you just have to hurry up and get to the end. So you just push with, that last little bit of effort that you have. So I definitely enjoy interval runs because they definitely will challenge you. So the next type of run is a tempo run. Now this run is a little bit interesting because it may sound similar to an interval run, but it's not. So with the tempo run, you want to start off, let's say your goal for the day is to run 3 miles. So at the beginning, you want to get warmed up as you normally would with like that first mile, kind of getting into your groove, and you're going at a good pace. Now that second mile is when you have to pick it up a notch. Now for that entire second mile, you should be running at a speed, not a sprint, but a speed that is slightly faster than your base run. You want to make sure that you are kind of pushing yourself a little bit on that second mile. You want to make sure that it's a little bit uncomfortable, but you are able to run at that same pace and speed for that entire second mile, whatever time that may be. And then after you finish that mile at that slightly faster speed, then that third mile is kind of like your recovery. Now you want to run at a little bit of a slower speed, kind of bring it down, but you don't want to stop just cold turkey. You want to kind of bring yourself down, as even if it's like a light jog. So the difference between the tempo run and the interval run is that the interval runs are shorter. So like I said before, it could just be as short as like 30 seconds. You're just inserting little small sprints, if you will, while you're running. And then that tempo run, it's a longer distance, but at a faster pace. Next type of run is a progression run. Now, this type of run, I feel like is a little bit more challenging because you start off your run, again, let's just say it's 3 miles, the distance that you're running for today. And so what you would do is that first mile and a half will kind of be at a generally comfortable speed, similar to that base run that you do. And then for the second half, like the next mile and a half, you're running at a faster speed. Now, the reason why I think that's a little bit more challenging is because if you've been running for 1.5 miles, and depending upon the distance that you are normally running, you probably used up a good amount of your energy during the first half of the run. So to be able to be like, I'm going to increase my speed even more for the second half of the run is kind of challenging, because at that point you're like, I'm just trying to get through my run. I'm trying to get my 3 miles in. Depending again on what type of runner you are, but if you are a newer runner, having to go from maintaining your run for a good 1.5 miles to saying whatever extra energy that I may or may not have, I need to use that for the second half so that I can get my progression run in. Now, the benefit of all the runs that kind of have you going faster than your normal speed is that when over time, you will see that when you are trying to maybe finish those runs or just go a little bit faster, you are already a little bit accustomed to that because you've been practicing while you're doing your runs, and even just, practice from day to day. Like, okay, I'm going to do a tempo run here. I'm going to do a progression run here. All of that extra work that you're putting in, I feel like you'll see an improvement when it comes to your performance, your endurance, your pace. You'll see a change because you're not running that same basic run each and every time. So it kind of challenges you and stretches you as a runner. So I think that that's why all of these runs are awesome. The next type of run is hill repeats, and it sounds exactly what the name says. So you want to find a hill or get on the treadmill and you want to increase the incline from like 4 to 6%. You want to bump that speed up and you want to go as fast as you can going up those hills. It is very, very important whether you are running up the hill outside or if you are on the treadmill that you are spending time warming up before you start this, because you will be going at faster distances and you definitely don't want to injure anything running, especially if you are new to heels and you typically run on a flatter surface, you want to make sure that you are being safe. You want to make sure that you're warmed up so you don't have any new injuries. Now, the heels are really good if you are trying to take like that next step. Obviously, you are going to be very fatigued because you are putting in more energy than you normally would when you're running. You're running up a different surface and you're doing that a numerous amount of times just to kind of get some heel work in. Now, if you are trying to just like build yourself up as a runner and you're trying to get improved endurance, then the heels will definitely help you. You just have to make sure that you are warmed up when you're doing so. And then it's something that I think that you should put into your routine to do a couple times out of the week if you can. And even if it's after like a long run, or you may not have the energy after a long run, but after a run, just to kind of get some repetitions in, I think that you'll see the difference with speed because you're having to fight against that incline to get you to the top and you're doing it a few times. It definitely will build your endurance. You're definitely going to be fatigued after you do some hills, and I think you will just see an overall improvement. So the hill runs, I would save to like the very end, just because if you've already got, like, let's say you did your base run and then you go and do some hills, I think you will just see that like it's pushing you that a little bit further than what you normally would be able to do. Now, if you don't feel like you're able to complete it on a day that you do another run, then just have a specific day for your heels. Just pick out a day or two to get some hills in, get some of those sprints in up the hill, and I think that you'll just see an overall improvement. Next type of run is a fartlek run, and if you are a seasoned runner, I know you definitely have heard about this before, and if you are new to the running community, you may have heard the term thrown around and just have no idea what these runners are talking about. So the Fartlek Run is definitely the most unorganized run, if you will. It has no set speed or tempo or distance while you're running. It's kind of just a mix. So you have that base run and then you throw some intervals in there, but it's not a certain amount of time or number of times that you should be doing the interval. It's just kind of come and go as you please. Like if you're running and you're doing your base run and you're like, oh, I feel like running a little bit faster, then you do so. And then you kind of just can, whatever speed it is that you want to do. It's not a regimented run like some of the other runs, like the tempo run or like the interval run. Those are a little bit more, run for this amount of time or do this distance and then change your speed. This one is kind of just, you just do as you please. So the last type of run is your recovery run. Now, this is definitely important after all of your runs or at the end of the week. You may have just done a long run. You want to put that recovery run in there just to keep your body loose and prepared for that upcoming run schedule that you have for the upcoming week. Now with the recovery run, you definitely go at a much slower speed than you would for your base run. It's not even the same distance. You want to go at a shorter distance, and it's really just to keep you loose and mobile, before you do more strenuous runs on the upcoming week. So let's say your average is running about 3 miles. On the weekend, maybe you ran about 5 to 7 miles. So your recovery would be anywhere between 1 and 2, but a lot slower. This is your run that you do not really focus on the time. It's the distance, but you're just running just to keep your body active and moving. You don't want to try to hit a new PR during this recovery run. You want to just kind of go easy as you can. If you need to stop throughout the recovery run, that's fine as well. You just want to make sure that you're keeping your body loose. You want to make sure that you are finishing every single one of these runs with some type of stretching, because we all know that you already stretched before the run, but definitely make sure you still stretch even after your recovery run. So those are all the different kind of runs that there are. I mean, maybe there's some other ones that I may have missed, but I think this covered the basic runs that there are. If you've heard some of these terms and you never really understood what people were saying, or if you have a running coach who's like, oh, get a recovery run, and you're not really even sure what that is, this video is just to kind of help give you some education on some of those types of runs, and you can kind of vary them while you're running so that you can be the best runner that you possibly want to be. I want y'all all hitting new PRs with, adding some of these different runs in there. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And then we will see you next time on the Rundown with Dr. Sierra. Happy running.